I think, a topic that really keeps many of us awake at night, whether you're a small company getting to start to hire, or you're on stage of growth, or you've reached a particular level. Any senior leader that I speak to, hiring is really one of the big challenges. So we're here today with Adi Azaria and Polina Montano to talk about a little bit how to crack it, what are the advice that they may have for all of us, and really some of the reflections and the learning. So let's start with just a little bit about both of yourselves before we get started. Adi, you want to start?
Please.
Polina?
Hi everyone, I'm Polina, I'm co-founder of JobToday. JobToday is a hiring app that instantly connects employers and job seekers, making hiring process fast and efficient, especially for the areas of a very high turnover, such as hospitality and retail.
Thanks, Polina. Adi?
And I'm one of the co-founders of Sisense. We are a big data company, allowing companies to understand their ever-growing data that's coming from everywhere, allow them to make faster decisions.
Wonderful. So we have two serial entrepreneurs with us that I think have learned the tricks on what to do, what not to do when hiring. But before I get started, I just want to quickly, a raise of hands in the audience. Two questions I have for you. One is, how many of you are currently hiring for your organizations?
Wow.
Okay, thank you very much. How many of you, actually I have three questions. Second question is, how many of you have been directly or indirectly part of a hiring process for your organizations? All right, okay, so that's everyone. Now that's the tricky question. I want all of you really to be very honest with us today. How many of you have ever hired a person knowing that I was hiring the wrong person? Okay, all right, okay, I don't know what happened to the other hands, but I think one of the things that we know two things for sure as a fact. One, it's hiring is difficult, and two, that even when we know we're making mistakes, we still go ahead and do it. So what we're going to do today in this 80 minutes we have together is try to understand what are the facts and the myths about hiring and how to crack them. So let's start with you, Adi, first. What are some of the counterintuitive facts about hiring that makes this process so difficult?
So as part of what I do in my life, I'm mentoring a lot of startups around the world. And they all ask me this question, who should I hire first? So it's like, should I hire another developer or the sales guy? I usually tend to go more with sales because you need to go out there as soon as you can. But once you decide, okay, it's the sales guy, what should you do? Should you hire one guy or two guys? You don't have any money, right? I always go with the two guys rule, a thumb rule, because you never know if one of them is better than the other, or your technology or your process doesn't work. So it's always better bring two, one of them will win, or both will fail, and then you'll know what is wrong.
So hire two instead of one,
yes.
Especially for sales.
Absolutely, yes.
All right.
Specifically if they're, getting their bonuses out of sales. They don't sell, they don't get bonuses, and you didn't lose too much money in the process.
Very nice. Thank you. Paulina, any other counterintuitive myths that you could share with us?
Yes, I guess what I learned, when you build a company, there are different types of professionals you need to bring in, depending on the stage in which you are. There are some people who can help you build, and there are some other people who can manage what other people already built. So you really have to be careful about bringing the right people in the right moment. So maybe first bring the doers and thinkers, and maybe bring managers on board a little bit later. That's just my piece of advice.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. So you mentioned about what stage you are in business and what you need. I don't think when we grow businesses, we actually have clarity. So what do you need to hire? When should you start hire? How do you go about it? Any way to break this mess? Because when it comes to raising capital, there's kind of like a way to do it. When it comes to building a product, there's a way to do it. When it comes to hiring people, is there a way to go about it?
I think so, yes. It's just, continuing Paulina's answer, you need to find, when you start, we need to find the founders type.
Yeah.
People who will, kill to succeed. Instead of the mercenaries who are coming only to get the money. That will happen when you grow. But specifically, if you're looking for a character when you grow your small business, just find the hungry people. people that wants to be you eventually.
Yeah. How do you assess for hunger?
Oh, you just put bread on the table, and if they eat, they're hungry. It's a good question. It's a gut feeling.
Yeah.
But you know when somebody wants to work. Actually, I have a tip for all of you.
Yeah.
If they're looking for the money, they're not hungry.
So during the conversation, if they ask for, my salary, what's the breakup? Okay, the applause, no? If you want to applaud, then you applaud. So you're saying if they only interested about how much I'm going to get paid, then
Yes,
that's
money
probably
is
the wrong
important, but
person.
it's definitely second or third to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Polina?
Well, how do you go about hiring? I guess the first thing for you as entrepreneur is to understand what it is you're hiring those people for, what it is you want them to do. Because when you know what it is you need them for, then your chances obviously to hire the right person are higher. One thing which we believe in as a company in JobToday is that experience is not everything. To us, it's really all about personality and the person behind the curriculum, person behind that experience. I honestly think not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur or to work in a startup.
Yeah.
Startup is a very different pace, but you all of course know about it already. In startup, you need people who can grow with you and who can help you grow. People who can evolve with your company. They will be wearing very different hats. They will be exposed to growth, and not everybody can handle it. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Don't hire CV, hire a person. Hire a partner, a part of your team.
So how do you define that expectation? Because I think one of the things that I'm hearing you say is that you are hiring for hunger, you're hiring for that entrepreneurial spirit. But when we hire people, are we sure that we know what we expect from them? Because that's one big challenge as well. Or do you hire for that hunger and that fit and hope for the best? That, okay, somehow we will be able to work together. How much clarity you need for the role vis-a-vis how much openness you look for that person to figure out the role as he or she goes along?
So first you need, if you didn't do it before, I mean, if you're a technical guy, you're hiring a sales guy, you definitely need to go and get advice from others.
Yeah.
Don't think that you know what they're going to make, how they're going to make. Just ask others. It's usually working in the same way everywhere. So I would definitely go and get advice from friends that did it before. That's basically.
Yeah. Okay. Polina?
On how do you know you hire a right person
Yeah.
for your team?
Yeah.
How do you know it's the right spirit?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, many people, they just repeat. In their workflows, they repeat and they copy-paste. Let me say differently, they reproduce things. When you're hiring for startup, you need people who not only can build, but people who can create.
Yeah.
And how can you sense it? I think there are many questions you can be asking throughout the interview. There are many play roles you can be playing with your candidate.
Yeah.
And as you play like this role games with them, maybe you can give them feedback and just see and observe how people react to that feedback.
beautiful.
Because clearly you want people on your team who can grow with you and who can adapt and who
Yeah.
can learn fast.
Yeah, very nice. You're saying you observe when you give feedback to a candidate, you observe how he or she is actually
Yes.
taking on that feedback, whether
Yeah.
he or she is open. Any other tricks? I mean, that's a beautiful trick. So you do that in the interview process. Give feedback to the candidate, so hence you can observe his or her behavior. Any other tips that you can share with us on the hiring process to identify that culture fit, that chemistry, that ability to really work together?
I can, but I need to change all my questions afterwards in hiring. But okay, I'll do that.
We won't share it with anybody.
Okay.
We promise.
Again, if you're hiring for sales, marketing, people who produce money in the system, you must see that they're hungry enough that they will ask at the end of the interview, what's the next step?
Yeah.
If you're the one who's telling them what's the next step, they're not fit. If they don't keep on calling you, of course, in some sense, you don't want anybody to do it too much time.
Yeah.
Too many times, definitely they are hungry enough and will be closers.
Yeah.
So sales closures, that's the main tip in this.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Thank you.
What we usually do, we actually test the motivation of a candidate, and I want to see how they think. I want to see how they approach problems.
Yeah.
We actually give homework to people who apply for positions in JobToday.
Very nice.
So I will schedule an interview, and it's really important for me to see the person, to discuss about his previous experiences, what he wants, where he wants to go in life. And usually after the first interview, I would always give them a homework, something they would have to, a problem which we have to solve, and how they would approach it. And it's really interesting for me to see how they're going to deal with that question. Is it going to be something which they done having particularly job today and my issues and my challenges in mind? Or would it just be a generic answer which would be suitable for any company? I think that's one way to define the fit.
Yeah.
It's a very good idea to ask open questions.
Yeah.
I have my famous question, which I'm asking some of my employees are here.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll keep on asking them. That's it, thumbs up. Keep on asking them questions like, if I'll take you back in time in a time machine and take you in the future in a time machine, I want to know a lot about them. And if I'm asking these kind of questions, usually they will start telling about, the first thing that they do usually is telling me about their fears.
Yeah.
Back in the past, no medicines and so on, but each person answer in a different way.
Yeah.
The best ones understand that it's an interview and everything is in context.
Yeah.
And if it's a development, role or a sales role, each of them needs to answer in the right way, for me at least.
Yeah.
And then I know how much they know about the process, how much they know about the role, and that gives me the best tip if they're going to be successful or not.
Wonderful. So tell me if you were to share with us one mistake that you have done at some point on hiring, that you think it will be meaningful for all of us, so then we don't do the same mistake. What would that be?
In my case, I think it will go back to your counterintuitive question, which you asked in the beginning of interviews. Sometimes when you are a startup and you really want to make it, and you are impressed by some other big players already existing in the market, you think, hey, if I go ahead and I hire someone which comes from this really, really big company who is already successful and has all these important titles on the CV, maybe if I bring this guy on board, he will know all the solutions to all of my startup problems, and it's all gonna just be peachy from now on. The thing is, it doesn't work, because once again, it's about those people from big companies. They usually come and join these companies in a very different stage. So we know how to deal with problems and how to solve problems which bigger companies have. And in many cases, they can't really invent and create that growth for you while you are still a young company and you're trying to grow. So my advice would be to hire right people for the job which you want them to do and for the stage of your company for which you need help, for which you need solutions.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Polina. Thank you.
2 words.
Okay.
Fire fast.
Okay.
Fire fast. Don't put good money on bad money. That's always ruining the entire startup.
Yeah. So you think for some of us who raise the hand when we say if you hire somebody knowing that it was the wrong hire, you're saying that as soon as you finally get to know that's the case, fire fast.
Say goodbyes. You do a favor to both sides.
Yeah.
You're just going to fail if you're not going to keep B players or C players in your organization.
Yeah. So one last question before I move to an area which is very important. It's after we hire, what happens? But one last question. For some of us in the group who is probably, we're still single founders or maybe 2 founders who are now looking at building that team, what is the number one position that you will advise us to hire for? Is it sales? Is it operations? Is it, what's the number one position? And how do I think about that? What is the kind of context that I need to, or framework that I can think about that question? Because I'm sure the answer is not really one. You will answer, it depends. I know that. But I'm saying, how do we break that question?
Want to start?
How do you build a team? Well,
what's the first role?
The first hire you should have.
The first role we should hire.
Well,
for.
I can only share what we did. The first thing we hired an engineer, because you might have a great idea, but somebody has to build it for you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important role in the company. Your first engineer, which maybe later will become CTO, it's your partner in crime. It's somebody who's gonna give life to your idea. Yeah, I would start there.
Okay?
So it
Adi?
depends.
Yeah.
If the startup,
I knew that
if the
you will
founders are partly business, partly
That's right.
technical,
That's
I would
right.
definitely go on and hire a salesperson,
Yeah.
and this salesperson should do the full cycle. I mean, bring the leads, get the sales into the place, and sign the deals. But beforehand, before just a few months before hiring this person, the business persona in the startup
Yeah.
should go on and do it on its own.
Yeah.
Without that, nobody can do it for you.
Yeah.
We've been discussing it before. It's like there is no magic. There is no black box where you say, okay, make sales and sales will happen. You need to do it yourself. You need to, let's say, to feel the ground
Yeah.
before you teach somebody else to do that.
Yeah. So you're saying for sales is the only role that, regardless of what profile you play in the startup founder, any founder has to do the sales job first.
Absolutely, yes.
You can't grow a sales team if you have not done sales
No,
yourself.
founders should understand the value of the product,
Yeah.
should pitch the value of the product,
Yeah.
and only then, after they realize what is the value, they can teach it to a salesperson. A good salesperson can sell anything,
Yeah.
and I've seen great ones
Yeah.
easily. Just go on, do it on your own.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the best, but
Yeah.
definitely understand who are the customers and what are they paying.
Okay. Very quickly. We found this candidate. It's awesome. He has the hunger. She has this. She has that. It's perfect fit. We hire the person. We screw it up then after that on the onboarding. Nobody has time, and this person is not successful. So hiring to win does not stop on hiring alone. What is the one key takeaway for us on how to make onboarding successful?
Just enable your people to succeed.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to find the right talent, but imagine you managed. Imagine you found the ideal candidate for the job. What happened is all this beautiful, sporadic, chaotic activity which happens in startup in the early days, it's fine until a certain stage. But as you grow, you actually need a little bit more structure and processes in your company just to enable those brilliant people which you bring on board, just to enable them do the work. So just help them, give them tools, give them communication channels, give them responsibilities, give them mandates, be clear about it.
Yeah.
That would be my
Thank
advice.
you. Thanks. Adi?
The magic is within the numbers.
Yeah.
You need to collect as much data as you can. You need to expose data to them. You need to measure them. You don't need to be, on top of everything they do, but definitely manage them by the numbers to see how many phone calls they're making, how many lines of code. Not really, but
Yeah.
you get the idea.
Yeah, wonderful. So last question for all of us who are hiring people, one thing we should stop doing when we hire and one thing we should start doing when we hire from tomorrow. Stop and start.
Stop looking at resume as a measure for success.
Yeah.
Specifically, Ivy League universities, it doesn't mean that they're going to be successful at work. Sorry, Ivy League guys.
And start, Polina, something we should start doing.
Start. Hire right people for the right time of your company and for the right job which you want them to do.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause to Polina and Adi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.